want anything bad enough, don't make excuses. You gotta lose your time and your sleep for it. You find a way.
Boxing King Media in association with the Riyadh season. Eddie Hearn, Knockout Chaos is the name of the event. Expecting chaos, AJ NGANNOU?
I'm actually, yeah. Look, I think when you talk about the fight, you know it's a dangerous fight. I was very vocal after the Tyson Fury NGANNOU fight that I believe AJ takes care of him in style, but also it comes with jeopardy. You've got a huge guy in there who can not only punch, but obviously has a huge amount of confidence. He had the confidence and belief going into the Tyson Fury fight, and I thought he won that fight. But if not, it was a fight that was around either way, and he'll come into this one with a lot more confidence. And for AJ, it's a huge event, but doesn't necessarily take us any closer to the World Championship, but does take us closer to Tyson Fury if he can win this fight in style.
Obviously, you've now got the advantage of having seen NGANNOU fight. I think in the pre-Fury fight, I think you said he wouldn't even win a Southern area title. Now that you've seen him, what's your opinion now?
I don't know. In all honesty, I was critical before the fight because I just find it very difficult to believe that a guy that has never had a professional boxing match before can go in and beat the linear world heavyweight champion. He was incredible in that fight. I don't know whether it was a fluke. I don't know whether Tyson Fury was off the boil. I don't know if NGANNOU is just special. I mean, the belief that he has is definitely special. But I'm still a believer that you can't just go in and beat guys that have been around for a long, long time and are at the top of their game. So he's definitely a lot better than I gave him credit for, but I still believe our man does the business.
What were the other options aside from NGANNOU?
I mean, obviously, we'd signed to fight Deontay Wilder, so that was always the plan. The Hrgovic fight's there, but obviously the IBF situation's got to unfold first. But, when I met His Excellency, really immediately after the final bell on the 23rd, it was like, what are we going to do? And he said, well, what is the biggest fight out there? I said, well, it's clear. It's Joshua NGANNOU. It's absolutely massive. When you see these two next to each other, you realise why. The men mountains, if that's a thing. They're two absolute Adonises that are very, very dangerous, and that's why His Excellency has come up with a name of Knockout Chaos, because it will be. I don't see this fight going the distance.
One of the things in the build-up to the Tyson NGANNOU fight, I remember I spoke to John Fury, and he said to me he was more concerned about NGANNOU because of his long arms and unpredictability. You don't know what's going to come your way. I spoke to Don Mingle last night, and he said to me, this is a harder fight than Wallin because you just don't know what you're going to get because he's got long arms, unorthodox.
Yeah, I think one of the problems Tyson Fury has is you go into that fight with no footage. So we've got 10 rounds of footage. That's it. So, it's better than having no footage, but it's also, you're fighting a guy that's not an orthodox fighter. He's not a guy that's been boxing for years and years, and you know what he does, and he does this, and this is what he's good at, this is not what he's good at. I don't really know what he's really good at and what he's not good at. What I know is he's a big lump that can really punch. He doesn't mind throwing with you. He doesn't mind taking chances. How good is his chin? He was never hurt by Tyson Fury. Maybe his chin's unbelievable. And he believes he can walk down AJ. I think he's going to be a lot more aggressive in this fight than he was against Tyson Fury, which could work in his advantage and might not.
We've seen yourself and Frank come together, and we've had some dream cards so far. So I've got to ask you, is there any fights that you'd want to collab with Queensberry for the rest of this year? You could name drop.
I mean, we're already collabing. Looks like some fights on Feb 17. There'll be some fights on here that we're working together on as well. And we're already talking about doing some kind of Matchroom v Queensberry event. Whether that's in Saudi, whether that's in the UK. At the moment, things are great. We know the opportunity that boxing has in Saudi Arabia. We know the opportunity that our fighters are getting in Saudi Arabia. We know the opportunities that it's presenting for our business. So we're not even being smart. We're having common sense to say, forget about he said this on YouTube and you said that. Let's just make this happen. And you've seen the movement in the last couple of months with Fury against NGANNOU, the day of reckoning, Fury against Usyk, Joshua against NGANNOU. You're talking about a 5-month period. It's unbelievable, and the plans are extensive, and the plans have longevity.
So just to confirm, it's not just going to be a Saudi thing. You and Queensberry will work in the UK together. Just out of curiosity, how will the TV side of it work, or will you kind of just share it or something?
Obviously, when it's in Saudi, that's what makes it a little bit easier, because the Saudis will decide where the broadcast sits. So in the UK, to make that work, it would be almost a JV with DAZN and TNT, where we would say, look, let's open up the platforms. Let's have one night where Queensberry and Matchroom go at it. Their best against our best, and I think it'll be a tremendous event. I think there's a reality spin-off show. There's loads of business we can do together. So, like I said, right now there's a real nice feeling amongst the teams. Maybe one day it'll change, but we should make the most of it.
Let's hope it does. Give me one fight. Just name drop someone from your stable and Frank's stable.
I mean, I'll give you a few fights. I don't know, Callum Smith against Anthony Yard. Kakachi against Cordina, another potential fight that's brewing up. Don't forget our international fighters as well. You've got Nick Ball, we've got Raymond Ford. That could be a unification fight if Nick Ball can win a world title as well.
Undercard of this, any other fights that you can tell us about?
Yeah, it'll all be announced later today. So we've got a couple of fights on the card. Queensberry got fights on the card. There's a brilliant heavyweight match-up on the card as well. It's another fantastic night, and that's the ability that we've got to give depth to these cards with huge events, the production spec, and everything that we're seeing in terms of how everything's being delivered.
Thank you for that, Eddie. And just a couple of other things I want to speak to you about. You're fresh off your flight from Canada. One of the biggest things that's come from that fight, as well as Artur Beterbiev's defence, was what Tony Bellew tweeted last night or the day before, basically in short implying that maybe there was some cheating involved on Beterbiev's part. He didn't say that, but he pretty much implied that in his tweet. Just your thoughts on that? Was it a fair tweet to put out?
I don't know. Tony's Tony. I mean, he doesn't work for me. He doesn't have, an obligation to say anything to stick up for us. I think he was quite passionate. He wanted Callum Smith to win. Everyone's got their own opinions. Obviously, what happened around the atypical result. We got a lot of criticism about our comments on that. We didn't release that information. Top Rank did. They released it with a journalist, and I was asked to comment on it. I gave my honest opinion. We didn't get the answers that we wanted or would have liked, but it's over now, and I think as long as we keep evolving in terms of testing and the way that we have, that open forum to talk about these things, we'll be fine. Clarify one thing that I said, which was it's almost like he's got an unfair advantage. That's not insinuating that he's cheating.
I think not human was what you said.
Yeah, the same thing. Like, you can be a machine. And when I talk about an unfair advantage, it's that he's that good. Like, you're looking at him against Callum Smith, who is a fantastic fighter, and it's like he's got this unfair edge. Not he's taken something. I didn't say that. I said he's got this edge that is very difficult to overcome. The next person to overcome it is Dimitri Bivol, and we hope he can do the business.
Yeah, because like I said, I spoke to Dominic Inglis, and one of the things he raised was that he's been clean for 20 years and he's been stopping people for 20 years, and it'd be unfair to kind of insinuate that.
Also, don't forget when you say, and I'm sure he has, by the way, but he hasn't been testing is something that's only just really coming into force now. For 80% of his career, he probably wasn't even tested at all other than Fight Night. And that's the same with all fighters. So that's not about Artur Beterbiev. So, I'm sure there's many fighters out there that are cheating, that haven't been found yet or haven't been tested in the right capacity. It's our job to make the sport as safe as possible and make sure that testing, which is really, really in a good place right now. I just would like something between not atypical, rather a negative or a positive, not it's somewhere in the middle. Because for me, you have to ask the questions when you represent a fighter.
And just on this Times article, I think you said the other day, not had a chance to read it. Have you read it since? And if you do win this case, what could come your way?
I haven't read. The article wasn't about our case. The article was about dealings in boxing between certain people. My situation with Sky and Boatsi and Boxer is exactly the same as really the Akoli situation. Our belief in our contractual position, a significant investment made in a fighter over many, many years, and all you want is that same investment of respect back to say, I'll honour my agreement, you've done a great job for me, you've invested a lot of money in for me, and that was completely disregarded by ill advice. And we saw that with the same people giving Lawrence Akoli the same advice we saw how that ended, and I believe this will end the same way.
I've got to ask you, you've done a few trips to Riyadh and Saudi now. What do you think of the place as a country as it's evolving from the first time you was there with AJ Ruiz?
Amazing. People talk about the reason that we're seeing these big fights in Saudi. This is part of a bigger plan to really introduce Riyadh and Jeddah and Saudi Arabia as a destination for sport. The passion that they have for our sport is infectious, and every time I go to Riyadh or every time I go to Jeddah, the developments that you see within the country, not just through the people but through our sport, the increased participation through grassroots, the increased participation of tournaments and amateurs who are taking the sport seriously, the increase in mental, physical well-being through the sport of boxing. It's great to see. And obviously, I don't like the narrative of, oh, they're taking boxing away from UK and America. There is this thing, it's called the world, and we should be looking to advance the sport of boxing in new territories that have the opportunity to stage major events. And right now, Saudi Arabia is at the forefront of that, delivering all the events that the fans want to see.
What about as a holiday destination? See yourself
Fantastic.
going?
Listen, I mean, some of the best hotels, fantastic beaches, excellent restaurants. I mean, Riyadh, you were there. It's a fantastic destination, and I think you're going to see it continue to expand. I always say to people, go and see it with your own eyes. Make your own judgment. I've been there, and I'm a believer in the development.
And the last question, I saw you do a 36-hour fast recently. I know 72 hours. There you go. Even better. So Ramadan's around the corner. You interested in doing that?
Yeah. Give me the specifics of
basically, you fast from sunrise to sunset.
Okay. Well, after my 72 hours continuous, that should be easy work for me. So maybe we'll have a look.
Right, Eddie, and thank you for your time.
You want anything bad enough? Don't make excuses. You gotta lose your time and your sleep for it. You find a way.